Finding and using midpoints, graphical and algebraic approaches, are essential questions. How is finding the midpoint related to calculating the average? What is the formula for midpoint? We'll start with a simple example of a number line, a horizontal number line, and we're asked to find the coordinate of the midpoint of AB. Well, if you look at point A, it's located at 2, and point B is located at 6. The midpoint of AB would be located at 4. What we find out from the formula box is that you can find the midpoint on a number line by averaging the two endpoints. And so if we averaged 2 and 6, 2 plus 6 is 8. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Okay, so now let's extend this to the coordinate plane, the XY coordinate plane. We are asked to determine the midpoint of this line segment graphically. So to do that, we wanted to find out what the rise is between the 2 points and what the run is. The rise is 2 and the run is 6. So to find the midpoint, we'll start at our bottom point and go up 1, which is half of the rise, and then go over 3, which is half of the run. Let's make sure that this is definitely the middle, so we'll go up 1 and over 3 again. Now I'm convinced that I've located the middle, or the midpoint. It has coordinates 6, 5. We can solve this same problem using a numerical or algebraic approach. So remember the coordinates of the endpoints. Let's call the first endpoint point A and the second endpoint point B. We know from the previous slide that the coordinates of the midpoint are 6, 5. What we could do without graphing is we could look at the x coordinates, which have 3 and 9 respectively of the endpoints. We could average those x coordinates. Let's add the numbers together and divide by 2. So the average of 3 and 9 is 6. Notice that is the x-coordinate of my midpoint. Let's do the same thing for the y-coordinates. Let's average 4 and 6. We're finding the number right in the middle. Of course, we know that's 5, but if we wanted to follow the numeric approach, we'd add the numbers and divide by 2. So we do get 5 as the y-coordinate. And that shows that we can solve these problems geometrically using the coordinate plane or algebraically using the formula for midpoint. So the formal formula looks kind of daunting. If you have point A with coordinates x sub 1, y sub 1, and coordinates of B are x sub 2, y sub 2, the formula for the midpoint looks like this. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, comma, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. But hopefully you understand that to mean we're simply averaging the x-coordinates and averaging the y-coordinates. So let's apply the formula with this example. We're asked to find the midpoint of line segment CD with the coordinates given. Let's start with the average of the x-coordinates. We're going to find the value that is right in the middle between -3 and 4. So we're going to average them. We're going to add them together and divide by 2. And we get 1/2 or 0.5 as the x-coordinate of the midpoint. Now we'll do the same thing for the y's. We'll average 6 and 2 together. That's 8 divided by 2 or 4. I now know the coordinates of my midpoint are 0.5, 4. Now we can prove that using the coordinate plane. Let's graph point C, whose coordinates are -3, 6. That's 3 to the left and 6 up. Let's graph point D, whose coordinates are 4, 2. And our claim is that the midpoint has coordinates 0.5, 4. Let's graph that and make sure that it makes sense. It definitely makes sense that that is the midpoint. Okay, so now there's an example for you to try, and we're asking you to find the midpoint of segment AB. You can use a graphical or an algebraic approach. One more example is we're asking you to find the midpoint of line segment XY, where X and Y have the given coordinates here. In this case, you either need a sheet of graph paper to graph them if you want to do it graphically, or try it algebraically.